Hello. My name is Rachel, and I'm here tonight with my February wrap-up. Now, I would like to just go ahead and throw out there that I'm heading into a major reading slump. I can feel it coming on. I find myself, when I have a choice between reading and doing something else, I'm tending to choose to do something else. So I'm trying not to force myself to read, because I feel like that'll just make it worse, but it is making everything go very slowly, which I feel like is kind of exacerbating the problem, so I don't know. We'll see. I'm hoping March will be a better month, but who knows? But it still was a good month for me. February, I got 9 books read, and I'm pretty pumped about that. I have a goal of 80 books, and so far now, including the one I just finished today, I am at 22. So I think I'm doing really good on my reading goal, so I'm okay. I'm trying not to get too down on myself about not reading, 24/7 really. But I did get through 9 books, so let's jump into those. So the first book that I read in February was the first book in the series of unfortunate events, and that is The Bad Beginning by Lemony Snicket. And I mostly read this because I know it's popular with the students in my library, and I wanted to kind of get an idea of what this book was about because I've never read it before. The thing I liked about this book was the way they do vocabulary. They use a word, sometimes words that I feel like are maybe even above elementary level, and they use it in context and then they kind of reiterate what it means, and I love that. That was an awesome way to introduce a lot of vocabulary, kind of in a backward sort of way to where the kids maybe won't pick up on it. I love that aspect of this book. The thing I did not like was really the plot because it was so creepy. I was totally creeped out. I cannot believe kids don't have nightmares because of this. Basically, these 3 children are orphaned, which is bad enough the way it is, and then they are shipped off to live with their creepy, sketchy uncle, who then tries to, not feed them and lock them in, it's not a dungeon, but in an abandoned creepy room upstairs, and then he tries to marry the girl to get all their money. It was really creepy, so I gave it 2 out of 5 stars, and yikes. I'm gonna read the second one just to see if it gets any better, but so far, not a huge fan, so yeah. Then next, I picked up Rebel Belle by Rachel Hawkins, and I was reading this for a book club with a few students at the high school that I work at, and I have to say, if I wasn't reading it for a book club discussion, I probably would have DNF'd this book about a third of the way through because I didn't really care about the characters, and I didn't really care about the plot. But that was kind of the turning point. About the point where I'm like, oh my gosh, I really don't want to read this anymore. It got better for me. I started kind of getting more involved with the characters, and I wanted to see what happens next. If you're unfamiliar with this plot, basically, I call it Southern Buffy. This girl named Harper, who is one of those girls who's just a total overachiever, like a Southern Belle, is given these powers to fight evil, and that's basically the rest of the book. Now, I will say that if you're looking for something that is super suspenseful or that will really surprise you, this is not the book. I saw a lot of the so-called plot twists coming a mile away, but it was still pretty entertaining. So again, if you're wanting to be surprised, this may not be the book for you, but if you're looking for just kind of a light, fun read, I would highly suggest Rebel Belle. I gave this 3 out of 5 stars on Goodreads, and I be planning. Listen to me. I be planning to read the next 2. I am planning to read the sequel, which is already out, and that is Miss Mayhem. That's the yellow cover, and then I believe the third, possibly the final book, is purple. It's called Lady Renegade, I think, is coming out later this year. So I definitely will read more of these. And I would recommend that you pick them up too, especially if you were a fan of Buffy. Next, I picked up a graphic novel while I was participating in a Scholastic book sale at the middle school that I work at, and it's called Roller Girl by Victoria Jameson, and I loved it. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I loved that they were able to get at such depth of character within a graphic novel format. You follow this main character, and she is deciding that she wants to become a roller derby girl, and while she's learning roller derby, you also learn a lot about roller derby, which was kind of fun, and she also learns that it's okay to kind of grow away from some of your friends and still be friends with them. One of her friends wants to do I think ballet is what she wanted to do, and they kind of pulled apart, and there was some bitterness there, but in the end they are able to realize that it's okay that they like different things. And I thought that was an outstanding message for young readers, that especially in that middle school age, that it's okay for them to develop different interests than their elementary school friends, but they can still be friends and they can make new friends. I thought this was just a wonderful message about like perseverance and friendship and just growing up, and I loved this book. I'm definitely going to be promoting this in our middle school library and possibly even the elementary libraries as well. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. Next, I picked up a book. Well, technically I picked it up in January and it just took me forever to read, and that is Burial Rites by Hannah Kent. First of all, one of my absolute favorite book covers ever. The colors are just amazing. I just love everything about it. Now, I will say that this book took me literally like 3 or 4 weeks to read because it's just, there's so much. It's just, I mean, not literally physically thick, but it's just so like heavy. It's dense. It follows the story of based on a real woman named Agnes who was accused and convicted of murdering 2 men in Iceland, and it's basically the story of her life once she's sentenced until she's executed, and then there are flashbacks leading up to the murder, the 2 murders that she's convicted of. And so obviously it's a heavy topic, but the language in this was, and the imagery was amazing. This book was just really, really, really good. It was a little bit slow in some parts, and it was kind of difficult because of all the Icelandic names and places and words, but aside from the fact that it takes forever to get through, it was outstanding. I gave this 4 out of 5 stars and would highly, highly recommend it. Next, I picked up The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up, The Japanese Art of Decluttering and Organizing by Marie Kondo. I listened to this as an audiobook, and it was, kind of short and not too dense to get through. I will say that this served the purpose that I wanted, which was just to motivate me to start decluttering my house. I collect a lot of things and have a hard time letting go. Kind of the onset of like a hoarder, basically. So this book really inspired me to go through my house and get rid of things. However, I don't have the time right now, so I wish I would have kind of held off on this book so I would have that inspiration in the summer when I'm off from work and I really have the time. So I'm hoping this can kind of carry over until June when I can really have the time just to go through my entire house and just get rid of massive amounts of things. So again, it served the purpose. I really did not think this book was life-changing in and of itself, but it did what I wanted. It was basically like watching hoarders on television. It makes you want to clean. So I was happy with it. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. Next, I picked up Alex and Ada Volume 3. This is by Jonathan Luna and Sarah Vaughn. This is one of my favorite graphic novel series, and like I said, this is Volume 3. This is actually the final volume. I kind of wish they would have made this into 2 because a lot really happens. This follows the story of Alex, who is given Ada, who is an android, like a robot basically, as a gift from his grandmother. And the struggle, the theme of this graphic novel series is basically, does she deserve the right to think for herself, or should she be just kind of a slave to him? And I really liked this graphic novel series. I think the artwork was good without being like too distracting from the story, and I just liked the premise. I liked the real world aspect, the way they brought in like politics to it. I just thought this was a phenomenal graphic novel series. If you haven't read it yet, you really should, especially since it's only 3 volumes long, and I'm sad to see it go, but I will probably revisit this in the future because I really, really did enjoy it. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. Next, I picked up Diary of a Wimpy Kid, another book that the young students in the elementary libraries that I work at are crazy about, and I really wanted to see what all the fuss was about. I have to say I don't understand. I do like the kind of humorous take on the middle school experience. I like the illustrations that are included. It says a novel and cartoons. There's little cartoons included throughout. I love all that, but I really don't like the main character, Greg. I think he is a horrible role model for all the young kids who are reading these books. He seems to me like a kid who just does what he has to get what he wants, and you don't want that to be the role model for kids. You don't, like in Roller Girl that I mentioned earlier, she seems kind of selfish and you don't like some of her decisions early on, but you can see her grow throughout the book and you can see her decisions becoming more adult and a little bit more thoughtful. Here, not so much. I feel like by the end of the book, he's just doing and saying what he needs to get what he wants, and I really don't like that. I know that it's supposed to be humorous, and there are some things in here that are kind of funny, like with the cheese. They're cute pieces, but Greg as a character, I am not a fan of, especially when young kids are reading these. I don't want them to think that's how they should be acting. So now I'm hoping that in the series there's more of a character arc for Greg, that he grows and develops. So I'm hoping to read book 2, but if he's not growing, I'm not going to be continuing with the series. I gave it 2 out of 5 stars. Next, I picked up 2 audiobooks that I do not have the physical copies for, and the first one was The Innocent Killer by Michael Griesbach, and this is basically more on the Stephen Avery case. So if you've been watching Making a Murder on Netflix and you're obsessed about it, you should definitely check it out. Michael Griesbach, the author of this audiobook, was the assistant district attorney in Manitowoc County during the trial of Teresa Halbach. So he was not there for the first trial, but he was there for the second. But if you've watched Making a Murderer, you know that it wasn't actually held in Manitowoc County. So he was involved, but not like directly per se. So you get kind of a different point of view. I got a little bit more information that I did not know about from the Netflix series and just the little news snippets that I've been watching. It was interesting. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. It was nothing groundbreaking, but it was interesting, especially if you were still obsessed with the Making a Murderer Stephen Avery case. So definitely give that a try if you are into that. Next, I picked up Blonde Hair, Blue Eyes by Karen Slaughter, which was, I believe, a novella that was leading into another book she wrote. And I have to say, the only reason I picked it was just because it was short, and I was hoping to find one that I could listen to in the evenings, and I wouldn't miss too much if I fell asleep for a little bit of the book. And that was the only reason I picked it, is because it was short. And then one night because I would just start it over again every night and then just let it play while I was sleeping to try to, for some reason it really, with the lights out and there's somebody talking and I just go right out. But one night I had trouble sleeping, and I ended up listening to the entire thing that night, so I went ahead and threw it on here. And basically, it's just a short little novella, about 2 hours, of a girl who gets a little bit too close to the line of fire in a murder investigation, and she really puts herself in danger. So I gave it 2 out of 5 stars because I was not that impressed. However, you have to think about the context. I don't feel like it was too fair for me to judge this book because I went into it just as something to listen to as I was sleeping, and this is just a novella to her book. I'm assuming the book would be a little bit better because I found it very suspenseful, but there just wasn't a lot of room to work with like 2 hours worth of suspense in an audiobook. So I'm not sure, but I gave it 2 out of 5 stars, but please don't let that deter you from giving Karen Slaughter a chance. And what a name, right? Karen Slaughter for a mystery murder writer. That's crazy. But anyway, those are the 9 books that I read this month, and yeah, let me know what you think down below of any of these books or what you read, and I will be happy to hear it. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you again soon. Bye!